Sweden. Sweden, formerly the Kingdom of Sweden, is a Nordic country in Scandinavia. It borders Norway to the west and north, Finland to the east, and is connected to Denmark in the southwest by a bridge-tunnel across the Øresund. At 450,295 square kilometers, 173,860 square miles, Sweden is the largest Nordic country, the third largest country in the European Union, and the fifth largest country in Europe. The capital and largest city is Stockholm. Sweden has a total population of 10.5 million and a low population density of 25.5 inhabitants per square kilometer, 66/sq.mi, with around 87% of Swedes residing in urban areas in the central and southern half of the country. Sweden has a nature dominated by forests and a large amount of lakes, including some of the largest in Europe. Many long rivers run from the Scans range through the landscape, primarily emptying into the northern tributaries of the Baltic Sea. It has an extensive coastline and most of the population lives near a major body of water. Germanic peoples have inhabited Sweden since prehistoric times, emerging into history as the Geats, Swedish, Goter, and Swedes, Svir, and constituting the sea peoples known as the Norsemen. An independent Swedish state emerged during the early 12th century. After the Black Death in the middle of the 14th century killed about a third of the Scandinavian population, the dominance of the Hanseatic League in Northern Europe threatened Scandinavia economically and politically. This led to the forming of the Scandinavian Kalmar Union in 1397, which Sweden left in 1523. When Sweden became involved in the 30 Years' War on the Protestant side, an expansion of its territories began and eventually the Swedish Empire was formed. This became one of the great powers of Europe until the early 18th century. Swedish territories outside the Scandinavian peninsula were gradually lost during the 18th and 19th centuries, ending with the annexation of present-day Finland by Russia in 1809. The last war in which Sweden was directly involved was in 1814 when Norway was militarily forced into a personal union, which peacefully dissolved in 1905. In 2014, Sweden celebrated 200 years of peace, breaking even Switzerland's record for peace. Sweden maintained an official policy of neutrality during wartime and non-participation in military alliances during peacetime. Sweden applied for NATO membership and was formally accepted recently. Sweden is a constitutional monarchy and a parliamentary democracy, with legislative power vested in the 349-member unicameral Riksdag. It is a unitary state, currently divided into 21 counties and 290 municipalities. Sweden maintains a Nordic social welfare system that provides universal healthcare and tertiary education for its citizens. It has the world's 12th highest per capita income and ranks very highly in quality of life, health, education, protection of civil liberties, economic competitiveness, income equality, gender equality, prosperity, and human development. Sweden joined the European Union on January 1, 1995. Wikipedia. Midsummer Festival in Sweden is a celebration of the season of summer usually held at a date around the summer solstice. It has pagan pre-Christian roots in Europe. The Undivided Christian Church designated June 24 as the feast day of the early Christian martyr St. John the Baptist, and the observance of St. John's Day begins the evening before, known as St. John's Eve. These are commemorated by many Christian denominations, such as the Roman Catholic Church, Lutheran churches, and Anglican Communion, as well as by Freemasonry. In Sweden, the Midsummer is such an important festivity that there have been proposals to make the Midsummer's Eve the National Day of Sweden, instead of June 6. Midsummer in Sweden, a cherished tradition. The successful Midsummer never-ending lunch party formula involves flowers in your hair, dancing around a pole, singing songs while drinking unsweetened, flavored schnapps, and downing a whole load of pickled herring served with delightful new potatoes, chives, and sour cream. All in all, a grand day out. Midsummer is the longest day of the year and was long considered a magical night. In agrarian times, the Swedes arranged midsummer celebrations to welcome summertime and the season of fertility. Most Swedes travel to the countryside to celebrate midsummer with family and friends. Many cities turn quiet, but midsummer festivities are also arranged there and all over the country. Participants are welcome to help decorate and raise the maypole. Quite by accident, my wife and I were in Lund, Sweden at the time of midsummer celebration and were lucky enough to get an invite to my friend's summer house. After the first toast, which occurred within 5 minutes of our arrival, we were great friends with everyone. The first set of photos show clearly that we both took part in all the festivities. On a prior trip to Scandinavia, my wife, myself, and my PhD advisor and his wife traveled throughout Scandinavia. This was definitely zero any of our greatest trips. My advisor was Danish but lived most of his adult life in the USA. He tried to impress us by speaking Danish, Swedish, etc. However, everywhere we went he was politely asked to speak English. Virtually everyone in Scandinavia speaks excellent English. The food was exceptional, especially the fish and seafood. On a later trip to Sweden, I went to dinner at a quaint little seafood restaurant with 3 Americans. Although there was no meat items on the menu, my friend on his first trip to Sweden insisted on ordering Swedish meatballs. The waiter said he would ask the chef, and the chef agreed. I ordered a seafood stew, the special of the day, while the 3 Americans ordered the meatballs. My stew was fabulous, the meatballs were totally inedible. The Morellas do not order meatballs if there is no meat on the menu.